Hello, everyone. Welcome to Everything Arsenal. We are back again with Cozy for another podcast. Team News and Ticks, a very, very reliable outlet, has confirmed that Arsenal could be set to sign a secret German international from the Bundesliga. Which player could that be? We'll be covering that with Cozy. We'll be covering the latest on players like Lokonga, Calafiori. Could he end up being our second signing? Looking very likely Arsenal are close to making an official bid for him. And also the latest on Viktor Gyokeres. But first, Cozy, how are you?
I'm perfect. I'm really, really doing well. Guys, thank you so much for joining us once again. It's a very, very big honor for us when you get into to watch and then you interact with us in the comments. So this one is an interesting one. We're looking at someone that Arsenal really, really, got to do some work on. But at the moment, their identity is absolutely obscure. So I'm really interested in this one.
They kept it secret. Actually, when it's a secret, I prefer it being a secret more than talking to a player for 3 weeks that everyone knows about. So this is what Team News and Ticks has had to report. I spoke to my main source who told me that there's truth to it, but no deal has been done and the club are trying to keep the name under wraps. I'm told not many know the identity of the player, and it's made even more difficult by being a player who wasn't on Arsenal's initial shortlist or even discussed in detail prior to the season ending. Wow, I'm already excited by that. Now, as you can see, because we have Kimmich there. Now, if it's someone that has not been on the list and someone who's secret, he might not be Kimmich, but that's probably the first option from, as a German international, because we've had murmurs about Kimmich to Arsenal, but it's not really a secret. Real Madrid one team, Barcelona one team, all those other teams, one team, Man City and all that. But let's talk about Kimmich first. Would you be over the moon if Kimmich was the player that we're signing, that is a German player that you're signing?
Yeah, I've already said before that he wins Arsenal the league, and I will not change my mind, and I will not change my mind on Joshua Kimmich. I think he is the player Arsenal are missing in that midfield with his consistency, with his experience, with his winning mentality. He is the leader Arsenal miss in that midfield for us to go and dominate Europe and win things that no one even thought Arsenal would win when we brought in Mikel Arteta. So for me, he would be my priority in this window, and he would be the signing that would make me the happiest man on earth if Arsenal got him. So the thing for me with Kimmich is when I look at that profile, yes, there are some parts that don't actually, fit Kimmich. I don't think it's a hidden agenda that Arsenal have interest in Kimmich. I don't think it's a hidden agenda that Kimmich really considers Arsenal as one of the destinations he would love to play for. But when you think about the other parts, I mean, Kimmich is 100% leaving Bayern this summer or next summer. That has been confirmed. He's not signing a new deal. Arsenal 100% need a number 6, and they are very confident they're going to get one. So Kimmich could be the one. I'm not saying he can't be the one. I'm saying he could be the one, but I think it's too obvious. If it was Kimmich, it would be too obvious. Man City would be there, Madrid would be there, and I think Fabrizio at some point in time would know if Madrid wanted him and they were rejected, if Man City wanted him and they were rejected. So I think the amount of news on a player like Joshua Kimmich and the profile of the player would attract a lot of media outlets. So maybe that is the reason why I would say maybe it's not Kimmich. But if we got Kimmich, if that player is Kimmich, trust me, guys, this is a title decider. This would be the way Manchester City had Ilkay Gundogan. I could see Kimmich like that kind of player.
I definitely agree. I don't think it's easy to keep someone like a Kimmich secret. And since Team News and Ticks have said that it's a player, I'm told not too many people know the identity on the player. Now, from that, do you think people heard about that and then people started a few rumors about Kimmich? Do you think that's where maybe the news about Kimmich came from? Because people had maybe before that Arsenal actually want a player from Germany. Do you think that's where the rumors came from?
No, I think that the Kimmich rumors started when the Bayern project was uncertain and Thomas Tuchel was going to leave, and the player was not in agreement with the manager, and he said, "I want to know which manager is coming in before I can commit my future to Bayern manage as a club." When they brought in Vicente Kompany, 100% he said, "I am going to be leaving Bayern. If I don't leave on a free next summer, I'm going to have to be sold. Otherwise, I'm not renewing a new. I'm not saying a new deal in 2025. So I think that's where the rumors started. Where is Kimmich going to go? It started with Florian Plettenberg before even Arsenal were linked to a mystery player, and then after some time, Florian Plettenberg says he considers only five teams at the top level: Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City, Madrid, and then Barcelona. So I think with Joshua Kimmich, whether Arsenal had a mystery player or not, he was always there. And I also know that Arsenal really scout the market very well. It would be a disappointment if a player like Kimmich was available. He would consider Arsenal, and Arsenal just didn't know that he was available, and Arsenal just didn't know that this guy would be, one of the bargains of the summer. It would be kind of a total disgrace. And I think the way we work these days with transfers and with with deals, it's that Arsenal almost know the contract situation of each and every potential target that we are going to be, trying to sign. So I think Kimmich is not linked to Arsenal because of the mystery player. He's linked with Arsenal because of his contract situation, and I think Arsenal know about it, and they would also look at him as a perfect replacement for Thomas Partey.
That makes sense. Now, with that said, for me, I'd say Kimmich is a separate target from the secret player. Now, out of 10, how many would you say out of 10 is Kimmich that player, like that secret player?
I would say 4. You'd go 4. I would go with a 3 out of 10. Like I said, there is a lot of media attention on Joshua Kimmich. Like he's been on top of his game. He's one of those players that have been consistently on top of their game for 7 years consecutively, or even 6 years consecutively, just on top of their game. So if he's going to leave Bayern, definitely Bild will want to know where he's going to go. Gazeta will want to know where he's going to go. The Athletic as well, and Sky Germany will also want to know where he's going to go. So I don't think a club like Arsenal have him on their radar, and media outlets don't know. However, there is a point that Arsenal didn't have him on their shortlist before the end of the season. So that could be because of the contract situation, and probably with German players, when they're playing for Bayern, the priority is for them to stay. So it was revealed that Kimmich is going to leave. That was towards the beginning of the transfer window, not before the end of the season. So probably Arsenal get to know that the contract of the player is going to run down and he's not going to renew. And Arsenal okay, this is a wonderful opportunity, because prior to the end of the season, Arsenal are linked to Onana, Arsenal are linked to Guimaraes, Arsenal are linked to I think a couple of other players, in the 6, and most of them are Premier League bound, right? Yeah. But when you think about the Kimmich story breaking the scene around June, confirming that he's not going to stay, confirming that he's going to leave Bayern, then that actually brings in the element of, did Arsenal not know about his contract situation maybe, or did they not believe that he was not going to sign a new deal, and that could have changed their mind, maybe. So if he was not in Arsenal's shortlist, at first, then there's a possibility that people don't know about him, right? Because unlike the past summers, we have not really received a good shortlist of players that Arsenal are targeting this summer. People said Olise, we were never in for Olise. People said for Zexi, we were never in for Zexi. So I think the Arsenal shortlist this summer is very, very close to Edu and Mikel Arteta's chests, and Kimmich could be on that shortlist, and people don't know. People just don't know.
Now, something we all agree on is that if Kimmich is the player, we'd absolutely be happy with it. Now, let's assume Kimmich is not the player because it's not really a secret, and we've been told that this is a player that not many people know about. Now, I'll ask you for your top 3 players that you think could be the secret, but let's bring up these players on screen first, as a lot of people are speculating it could be any of them. Now, we all know these players. On the left side is Vats, Bundesliga player of the season, incredible in terms of assists. He's already scored a very good goal at the Euro so far. He started the first couple of games, but you think he's been on the bench for the last couple. Very, very good player. We had a bit of talk about Musiala at the beginning of the transfer window, but it would be very hard to get, especially when you're speaking about Euro taxes, because you like saying Musiala would probably triple after the kind of performances he's had in the Euros, but very difficult one to get. Sane, connection with Arteta from Man City, I don't know, could he be the player? Looks like he's not starting the Germany games. Bayern Munich, a couple of poor performances, he's been benched a few times here and there, and Kimmich as well on the right side. Now, from these four players, Kozi, I'll ask you for your top three later, but let's say it's not Kimmich. Now, Vats. Do you see Arteta having an interest in Vats? Because the players we've been linked to, the likes of Eze and players like that in that number, number 8 role, number 10 role, players like that. Do you think all of a sudden Vats could be the one?
I wouldn't say 100%, but I'm not surprised, and I will never be surprised if Arsenal are among the high-profile caliber teams that are interested in Florian Wirtz. We've been told that a couple of clubs want him this summer, and they're big clubs and they're big projects. And when I look at Mikel Arteta's team and what we have been doing in recent summers, Declan Rice, no one thought would get him. We actually got him. Then you go and sign a Kai Havertz, a signing that people didn't actually believe in, but for £65 million, that's around 75 million euros. Then he comes in. So I think Florian Wirtz is an interesting one because Arsenal are looking at Eberechi Eze, and Eberechi Eze would bring in what Florian Wirtz would give you if you had him. So one of our problems last season was navigating a mid-block, navigating those teams that set up in the middle of the pitch. So you need players that have that individual brilliance, and that's why you're linked with Eze. That's why we want Eze, because he's got the ability to bypass a mid-block and probably drive through it and probably dodge a few players with his skill and beat them. Florian Wirtz is also that kind of player. There's also, I think 2 summers ago, when Edu did an interview with Sky Sports, and he said, we are about to reach a level where every summer we sign one high-profile, player, one expensive player. That could be Florian Wirtz. It's going to cost in excess of 90 million euros, probably even 100 million euros. You never know. Madrid want him. Man City could want him. If Arsenal are there, it's going to be an absolute party. So I wouldn't say Wirtz is a straight no. But when I think at the price the price that we have in there, and then I also think about the other players that we've been linked with, I think Arsenal would rather go for Eze. He's cheaper, young, coachable as well. I think Eze would come before Florian Wirtz. Now, Wirtz is not another player that I think media outlets have actually had no access to in terms of his future.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah. I think the Manchester City links have been there for even before this wonderful season is had. The Man City links have been there, and we know with City they are linked with you this summer. Next summer you're their player. The Madrid links have been there this summer as well, and I think a couple of other clubs would want to sign him, but they just don't have the money. And Bayern Munich have also considered him, and we've had a couple of articles from Bild saying that Bayern would love to sign Florian Wirtz, but they don't want to pay the amount of money that Bayer Leverkusen are asking for. So his future, discreet, 100% not. 100% not. And then you've got to ask the question, if Arsenal wanted someone that beats the mid-block or someone who helps us to beat the mid-block, why would Florian Wirtz not be on the shortlist before the end of the season? Like with the season he has had, why would he be not on the on the shortlist? You're thinking a player is not on the shortlist and just gets his name onto the shortlist of players you want to sign because of 1 or 2 reasons. One, maybe his price drops drastically. Probably his contract situation is in turmoil. Doesn't want to sign a new deal with his parent club, and therefore he decides to leave. So that's no, I don't think he's the one.
Now, since you said it would be very hard to keep his name a secret, I would say the same about Musiala. I don't think you would, go and get someone like a Musiala as a secret. I really doubt. Exactly. And it wouldn't be Arsenal only that would want Musiala. So Musiala would be great. Another player that, would probably fit into the team. He's in the years, he's been incredible. I've seen him on the right wing. I've seen him in the number 10 position, the number 8 position during the game. He's been absolutely incredible. Former Chelsea player at Bayern is just, his name is improving and improving and improving. Personally, I can see Musiala staying at Bayern, probably signing a new contract. Do you also match that opinion? Do you think he's going to leave?
I don't think Musiala is going anywhere. I mean, the agent is running stories of clubs in England are really interested in signing him. Liverpool, he's gaslighting Liverpool fans. I'm happy he's not gaslighting us. Arsenal fans, please don't fall for that. Musiala is not coming to Arsenal, please. I think it's the agent trying to run the stories, trying to get his boy on a big deal, because Bayern, as well as however much they are the biggest team in Germany, they're known to pay really little wages to young players that are really important to them. So I think they're trying to get a significant amount of money from Bayern. They're trying to threaten them. This is a player that won them the German Bundesliga against Borussia Dortmund on the final day of last season, but won, right? So that means that Bayern could have failed to win the German Bundesliga in 2 seasons in a row, because last season they failed to win it. They lost to Bayer Leverkusen, right? So I think Musiala is such an important player for any manager that is going to be at Bayern. He's an important player for any CEO that is going to be at Bayern. If you want a problem with Bayern, just announce that Musiala is not one of your projects. You're not willing to work with Musiala. He's the future of Bayern Munich. He's the player that they're going to build around. So if he was going to leave Bayern, if he was going to move on, I think by now we would know where he would be going. By now we'd know who he's been talking to. Would have surveillance, would have police reports, would have everything about him. So I think no, he's not leaving Bayern, and he's not the one. The build would be all over this one.
Yeah, and it would cost like 100 million. Let's be honest, that one is not going to happen. Now, Leroy Sane, because you worked with Arteta at Man City. We've been linked to a lot of wingers, Bakayoko, Nico Williams. You've been talking about getting someone to improve the left side, someone to back up Saka, someone to give Saka competition. Hasn't had the best of seasons with Bayern Munich in Germany. Is on the bench during the Euros. Could it end up being someone like a Sane back in the Premier League, surprise signing, as a winger? Never really signed a player like that. And would you be happy if someone like a Sane came to Arsenal as the first signing?
Now, Leroy Sane has that relationship with Mikel Arteta, and it makes the situation very, very interesting. I think many Arsenal fans wanted him last summer. This summer, I'm not very sure about him. He has had a mixed Euros where much of the performances have not really been good, and I don't think that is actually helping his, marketable part of his game. Now, do I see him as a realistic option between Vats and Musiala? 100%. I would say Kimmich is very realistic because Arsenal need a player desperately in that position. But Sane is very realistic because Arsenal need a player in that position, a winger, someone who has experience more than Saka. So that means that when we go onto a big UEFA Champions League stage, and Saka maybe has kind of lost himself into the pressure, we can take him off and bring on a player like Sane. He's been there, he's done with Man City, he's won trophies with Man City, and he has worked with the manager. Mikel Arteta wants players and loves players that he has actually worked with, previously. So it's one that I can see open. And also, in terms of not gathering a lot of media attention, I think it would pick up media attention later on, after Bayern signing Olise, rather than prior to the situation, because prior to the situation, they didn't know who the manager was. They were rejected by 256.9 million managers, this summer. So they didn't know who the manager was. They were trying to get their hands on a new manager. Who are we going to bring in? So many of the players there, and their future was really undecided. They're trying to find out, if the manager is Vicente Kompany, does he really want to work with Leroy Sane and Serge Gnabry? So I think they have an overload of wingers first and foremost, but the new manager coming in, that defines the future of many players. And the first thing he has done, he's brought in Jamal Musiala. Sorry, he's brought in Michael Olise. What does that tell you? That he wants to build his own dynasty. He wants to build his own Bayern team. He's not believing in all this Serge Gnabry, Sane reunion with Bayern. He's not believing in all that. He's saying, I want my own team. So, and then think about Bayern's overload in winger areas. They have Coman, they have Sane, they have now Olise, they have Serge Gnabry in there. Musiala can play there as well. And they have an interest in Florian Wirtz. At some point in time, if no club abroad picks him up, they will pick him up. So I think Sane is an interesting one because his future comes under more scrutiny after the signing of Olise rather than before. So there's a big possibility that Arsenal thought probably is going to stay there. Probably they didn't see Bayern go for Michael Olise for 60 million, giving him 220,000 a week. Now they need to lessen their wage budget burden, but they also need to, they need to offload some players. So maybe Arsenal have looked at it in a way, this is a player that we can go and get. It's kind of those deals where, Alexis Sanchez moves to Arsenal. Why? Because Wenger looks into that Barcelona team and is like, Alexis, you're not going to play football. You're destroying your career. You're not going to play football in this Barca side. Come and be the star man in this Arsenal team. And then Alexis ends up at Arsenal. So that is, I can see it in that kind of regard. Yes, I believe that Leroy Sane, in terms of the profile that Arsenal have been trying to sign, might have not been on Arsenal's radar initially. You look at the players we're linked with in winger areas. Bakayoko, 21-22. Nico Williams, 21-22 years of age. Who else are we linked with? All these players are very, very young.
The Girona one, several players.
The Girona one. All these players are very, very young. So when you think about their age bracket, Leroy Sane is the odd man out. So there's a big possibility that he joined the list a little bit later. So it's a massive shout with Leroy Sane. Now, would I be happy if Arsenal signed him? I have doubts about him. I really, really do have doubts about him. His pace, I don't have a problem with that. Decision making, scary. His decision making, I have a problem with it these days. Like, it's not the Sane at Man City, could score bangers, could score benders, could score all different kind of goals. But we have been told that Mikel Arteta is a major reason as to why Sane and Sterling worked well was shining at Man City. So probably he thinks he can revive his career like he always does.
Now, those are the 3-4 players that everyone has talked about online. But me and Cozy have our own, our own minds and our own analysis on these players. We watch Germany a lot as well. We are going to break down which players we think could be the secret player. Now, let's start this all over again. Now, Arsenal are linked to a secret player from the Bundesliga, but who could it be? So let me and Cozy break it down. Now, I'll ask you for, I think a top 3 is good. You start from number 3 to number 1. So number 3 is the one that's top 3 to 1. So I will start with the number 3. I don't know if you're going to have the same players on your list. So number 3, the secret player that I feel could be the one is Andrich. Now we are linked to a defensive midfielder. Everyone is talking about Fofana, Bruno Guimaraes, and all of those players. But Andrich is not really that. I don't know, that cute name that everyone is like, oh, Andrich. At the Euros, he's been absolutely incredible. He's been, he scored a very good goal some time back and they got disallowed and all that. But, he was I think he was at Leipzig before joining, Leverkusen. Yeah. I'm confusing the team. I'm confusing him with Lima. So he's done very well. And since we're looking for defensive midfielder, we've seen the way Germany have approached games at the Euros so far. Like whenever he's not there, they kind of struggle. Like whenever they take him off, they have to bring in someone else like a Pascal Gross in that midfield. And considering we are really, really looking for a midfielder, I don't think you'd be that expensive. I'm thinking around, yes, Leverkusen have had a good season. We gave them Xhaka. We have a good relationship with Leverkusen recently. A lot of things pointing to that. We've been into players like Frimpong and players like that. And I feel like that good connection from the last transfer window, we could end up getting like an Andrich. Leverkusen could be like, okay, give us Xhaka. Let's give you Andrich. You have someone in midfield. That could mean Partey potentially leave. If we get Andrich, I feel like Partey will leave. So that would be the third option in terms of the secret player who I think is a secret player. Not my secret player, not the one I would want it to be, but I'm saying in terms of the list, one of my top 3, the one I feel like they would want. Number 3, I'd go with Andrich. How much he would be? How much do you think it'd be? Cheaper, right? I mean, less than 40 million?
Yeah, 29. His contract is not, long. I would say 25 million euros you could get him.
So I think Andrich is my third option. Who would you go as your third option in terms of which player you're linked to from the Bundesliga?
And actually, that's the first player I thought about, Julian Brandt. That's the first player I thought about. When they said Arsenal linked with the mystery player, I was like, Julian Brandt. We've been linked with Julian Brandt for quite some time. And for some reason, every time the links have been concrete, but something didn't happen. And I've asked myself a few questions. Why aren't we seeing a deal, maybe progress? So I think Julian Brandt's contract runs down either this summer or next summer. I'm not 100% sure, but one of these summers. He's one of the players that I've told Borussia Dortmund is not going to renew with them, and his future must be decided this summer. Arsenal have been linked with a number 8 and a number 6. Now, with Julian Brandt, who definitely not play as your number 6, is a typical number 8, typical Fabian Ruiz, Santi Cazorla, Jack Wilshere. You don't play them in the 6, you play them in the 8. Simple as that. So I think for me, he's the player that I could see Arsenal just go and pick up for Borussia Dortmund for a very, very cheap fee. The way clubs could go and pick up Kagawa, and you thought he was like 60 million, yet he was like around 25 or 30 million. That's the first player I would think about. I think Mikel Arteta is unsure and uncertain of Fabio Vieira, and also uncertain of ESR, and also we still have that mid-block problem. We need players that are intelligent enough to combine with Martin Odegaard to be able to play through teams, despite the fact that they have gone narrow. I think Julian Brandt would have that quality. He's a very good dribbler. He's played on the wings before. He's played in that 8 before for Borussia Dortmund and for Bayer Leverkusen as well. I've got a feeling he might not have been on the list because Arsenal had other options, especially in terms of the 6 and the 8. They wanted to first see, do we play Rice as the 6 or the 8? But because this is quite a very interesting opportunity, we might see him as the player Arsenal go for.
That's a very good shout. Brandt, very good season for Dortmund. He's able to score goals, able to assist. There's a Champions League goal I think he scored in the group stage that was really, really good. I don't know if it was against PSG or Newcastle. One of those teams, he scored a very good goal against them in the group stage. Now, very, very good option. Now, my second option, I think it will be another position that we really want. We'll be linked to a left back. And someone like a Middlestad is not a name that people would hear a lot. So I think Middlestad, a lot of people is underrated. It's led Stuttgart to a second place finish, not just him, obviously, but everyone was talking about. I've already forgotten the striker's name because I really didn't want him as well, just like you, Guirassy. So everyone is talking about Guirassy, but not many people are talking about his name is Maximilian Mittelstadt. It's very, very hard to pronounce. But in terms of what you're looking for in terms of left back, we've been talking about players like Calafiori. We've been talking about players like Kadioglu, and this player as well, in terms of he's 27 years of age, so doesn't really fit into the younger players. But I wouldn't be surprised if we got a couple of older ones. I mean, Trossard, Jorginho came in at 27, 30 and those. So his tackling is very good, his interception is very good, passing, dribbling, key passes, his aerial duels, crossing, keeping possession. That looks to me like an Arteta player, absolutely an Arteta player. Now, he's not a player that many people would look at. He was playing for Hertha Berlin before, and then he just joined Stuttgart. That was his first season for Stuttgart. At the Euros, when people are talking about Germany's starting lineup, I thought, this player is going to start, this player is going to start. And then I had people saying, no, Mittelstadt is going to start. And I was like, who is Mittelstadt going to start? I was like, who is this guy? So maybe I was the same. I was like, Mittelstadt? Okay, let's look at him. And he's had a very good Euros going forward, the crosses, but he's not scared of shooting the ball. I've been seeing him shoot the ball at the Euros. And I think the last game he didn't play, but that I think is the second option in terms of the top 3 of the secret player. Who would be a second option? And what do you think about Mittelstadt first?
Now, I did think about Mittelstadt. I did. The assist for Gundogan in their second game of the group. That was his highlight. Like, he's an intelligent footballer. He's had a very, very good season, despite the fact that many people actually don't know about him, and we don't know much about him. But I think in terms of Mittelstadt, he kind of ticks all the boxes. Like, he could be that player that is 100% focused on the Euros, 100%, even expected to stay at Stuttgart, because like when you look at Stuttgart right now, there are many players that are going to leave. Guirassy has already left to Borussia Dortmund, and expect a couple of them. So he could be that player that is one of them. He just signed for them 1 year. He's expected to stay, and then Arsenal go and pick him up. So he's a very good profile, and he ticks all the boxes. But why I didn't go for him in terms of a left back, I thought of a left centre back, a player who Mikel Arteta would want to play at left centre back, but also a left back. And I went for Nico Schlotterbeck at Borussia Dortmund.
I knew you'd go for him. I already had the graphic ready.
I went for Nico Schlotterbeck. So with Schlotterbeck, there've been links with Arsenal before. And that third game that they played was incredible. He was absolutely incredible. He's an intelligent footballer, but I think his power comes when he's on the ball. Like when he's in possession. That's what Mikel Arteta wants. He wants his players to play high up the line, high up the pitch. Almost his defenders are playing in the final third of the opponent. So you must be able to, win possession very quickly, whether aerially or on the ground, and then try to pass the ball quickly and reinforce the attack. That is Schlotterbeck. Now, I don't think that he would definitely 100% go under the radar. He's one of the most talented players, defenders in Borussia Dortmund. And the fact that Ramos is leaving, that would also shine a spotlight on that defense. Who's going to come in? Who's going to probably take over? They're looking at the new defense, probably being Schlotterbeck and maybe some other player if they can get a new signing. So it's not going to be. It wouldn't be an easy deal, first and foremost, but I can see him as a player that Borussia Dortmund are willing to sell this summer. Do I really see many players that are going to leave? I don't think they have a Jude Bellingham. I don't think they have a Jadon Sancho. I don't think they have such kind of a profile that they're going to sell for 60, 70 million. So Schlotterbeck is one of those players that Dortmund just sell to keep on to keep the operations running. So if Arsenal looked at him before and probably thought this summer we might not go back in for him, and probably they just rethought. That's a good thought. So for me, Schlotterbeck would be my second option.
Just a reminder, guys. Tunis and Tix has said, I spoke to my main source who told me that there's a truth to it, but no deal has been done, and the club are trying to keep the name under the wrap. So we have been linked to a player that many don't know the identity of the player. So we're being linked to a German international. So you're trying to break down who it could be. So Kozia said his number 3 is Brandt, and his number 2 is Schlotterbeck. I've said my number 3 is Andrich, and number 2 is Mittelstadt. Now, I do agree with you. My number one would be Schlotterbeck. Not my number one. I don't want people to think like that's the player I want, but no. Mm-hmm. What I think Arteta's number 1 option from there would be is Schlotterbeck. You've already broke down everything well, and I've gone for 2 left-sided defenders because that is the position you've been told about constantly. That's why I've gone for Mittelstadt and Schlotterbeck, and I've seen him, he scored. I heard it the other day and it got disallowed, so he can also jump for the ball. He can also attack the ball, and in terms of opposition box, he can score a couple of goals. And yes, I do hear what you say. Hamels has left the club. This could be the main one, but Dortmund usually change their teams very rapidly. Like they've had transfer windows where within 2 years they've lost Aubameyang, Lewandowski, they've lost Sancho, and then they lose Hamels, and then he comes back. They lose Götze, they've lost Royce, so they're losing a lot of players. So I think that they could go to on a transitional year or something. So I wouldn't be surprised if Schlotterbeck is the player that has left. So that is the number 1 player I feel like Arteta would get from there, Schlotterbeck. I feel like I already know your number 1. I feel like I know. Is it a striker?
No, it's not.
Okay, so that's great. So I'm interested to know who the number 1 player you think is the secret player. Who do you think is the secret player, the main secret player?
Now, the one I thought about, we've discussed, it was Kimmich.
Mm-hmm.
So I've also thought about the situation of Serge Gnabry. Very close to what you have with Sane. Future undecided. I think for him, his future is a little bit kind of decided that he's going to be leaving. I don't think we're going to have a lot of. I don't think we're going to have a lot of friction if we wanted to sign him. Now he did pick up an injury that could hinder his transfer probably this summer. But for me, when I compare the two, he's the one that has had more life than Sane. He's the one that has had that caused us more problems before he picked up that injury in the UEFA Champions League. And it's the one in his squad as well. And it's the one that I would say fits into Mikel Arteta's system. He's quick, but scores a lot of goals. That is a very, very important thing. So the reason that's why Mikel plays inverted wingers is for goals. He wants his wingers to be on goals, 15 goals, 16 goals, 17 goals, regardless of what of what kind of season you're having. You must be able to score goals. And I think Gnabry scores goals, Gnabry creates chances. So when I think about his future, and let's be honest, Sane can play as a 10. So who does the Michael Olise transfer really affect the most? It's Serge Gnabry. Because with the talent of Coman, if he's not going to leave, he will definitely get somewhere where he plays. So Gnabry is going to be most affected by Michael Olise and Musiala partnering up. And at some point in time, I would see the likes of Tell as well, play more football under Vicente Kompany. So I think Gnabry could be that player that he's not worked with Mikel. He's not worked with with his entourage. So people just don't have any clue about him, and then boom, it happens.
Makes sense completely. So these are the players that you think.
Who do you think I was going to say?
Fulkrug in your top 3, but Fulkrug probably because of his age. I don't think it could be the one. 31 years of age.
I think his age is stretched.
His age. But as you've noticed, me and Cozy, different minds from everyone else. We've gone for also the players those are the positions that we've really been talking about. Gnabry, winger, Schlotterbeck, left-sided defender, Brandt can play those forward positions that we've been linked to. Mittelstadt, left back, Andrich, central midfielder, defensive midfielder. Now, one player that both me and Cozy mentioned on the list is Schlotterbeck. That means we are both thinking the left-sided part of the defense. Now, could that mean Calafiori is a smokescreen, Cozy? But first, let's go to the news on Calafiori. According to Di Marzio, they've all reported on it. Di Marzio, Fabrizio, and all those guys. Arsenal on the trail of Riccardo Calafiori. Among clubs outside of Italy, Arsenal is the most concrete interest. That is according to Di Marzio. Di Marzio, the best in terms of Italian news, I'd say, with Fabrizio. And according to Fabrizio, Arsenal and Chelsea remain both interested in Riccardo Calafiori, as revealed last week. Both clubs have explored conditions of the deal, expensive as Basel will get almost 50% of the fee. Calafiori gave green light to Juventus, but Bologna preference is to sell abroad. And finally, this from .cm.com. Arsenal, especially in the last few hours, have entered the race for Calafiori, with the Premier League his most likely destination at the moment. Bologna want 50 million euros for the player, considering 50% of his sale will go to Basel. Now, Cozy, first of all, 50% to Basel is crazy to me. Like, we need that guy to come and help Edu to do those negotiations. 50%. Like, if you give them 50 million, they're going to get a clean 25%. That is absolutely crazy. Now, it seems like the Riccardo Calafiori deal is progressing. We're about to make a bid. But we also being linked to a player from Germany. Now, if that player is someone like a Schlotterbeck, that means Calafiori could be a small screen. But let's say we are wrong, it's not Schlotterbeck. What do you reckon? What do you think of the Calafiori developments? Do you think this one will move very quickly now?
No, I think it has already started moving very quickly. I think it's a story that we predicted within the first week. We will know the direction in which the fire is coming from, but also in the direction in which the fire will be going. And I think at the moment we know the direction in which the fire is coming from. Every single club on planet Earth that can afford him want him. Right. So we also know that Juventus are not leading that race anymore. So we know where the deal is going. So we already have very significant, developments on it. And I think, again, by the end of this week, we should be able to know how much Bologna are asking for concretely. If we get that asking price, if we get to know how much they're willing to bend down to, how much is their, maybe starting position, then that will determine how many clubs will stay in the race, how many clubs will actually, drop out of the race. So for me, for this one, every single time you refresh your news feed, there is something that's happened. I think the club CEO, the club director actually was saying that they can't stand in the way of Calafiori. They're going to be selling him. They're now acknowledging that he's going to be leaving, and that shows you that regardless of who's going to sign him, they don't know where he's going to be, but they have also now resigned to the fact that this is no longer their player. Come next season, he's going to be wearing another badge, he's going to be kissing another badge, and he's going to be playing for another, for another team. So I would say if in the next 7 days the Calafiori deal is not yet sorted, then it's a bit of a weird one, because for me all the details are clearly out there on on the table to be seen by all parties around the table. What we don't have is the price, right?
Yeah.
Bologna are willing to sell. They're willing to sell abroad. They're not willing to sell to Juventus. The player is willing to move to Juventus at the moment. We don't know whether he wants to move to abroad as well, but we're going to know that very, very soon. So what Bologna need to do at the moment is to give us that asking price. Let us know. If you Arsenal, how much are you going to pay? If you Chelsea,
I mean, they've mentioned 50 million euros.
I think this is more of a speculation in the media at the moment, because if look, for a player who has had such a summer, for a player who has had such a Euros, and a player who doesn't have a release clause, there's no way there's no way they're going to ask for 50 million euros, and that's what they want. So probably they will start with around 70 million euros, and they'll end up around 45 to 50 million euros around there. So this is more of a speculation. This is actually, when you look at his market value right now on the transfer market website, it's between 35 to 50 million euros. So this is more of a market value price rather than what Bologna are going to be asking for. So when they say we have to be realistic, he's going to be leaving, he's not going to be our player next season, the next step is to set the price, and we should be able to get to know that price very soon.
I agree. Now, it seems to have moved very, very quickly, for sure. Is out of the years, and the developments have started, catching fire very, very quickly. Now, Di Marzio, one of the best in terms of Italian news, says that Arsenal is the most concrete interest. Do you believe that part of reporting from Di Marzio? Do you actually think we are the favorites, or do you think there's still a lot to go through? Because do we know yet if Calafiori really wants to join Arsenal? We don't know that yet. Do we maybe prefers Chelsea to Arsenal? A lot of Italians have played for Chelsea before more than Arsenal. Could he prefer that? Could he prefer to stay in Bologna? Might he prefer to stay in Italy? Maybe not Juventus, but a team like a Napoli or a team like an AC Milan want him or something. Could he end up going there? So do you think Arsenal is actually the most concrete interest, and why? Why are we the most concrete interest?
Look, Di Marzio really does a very good job at hyping up Arsenal fans. He's done it with Manuel Locatelli before. He's done it with Dusan Vlahovic before. I'm 100% fed up with him, and I'm 100% used to him. But when he says that Arsenal are the most concrete interest, or have the most concrete interest, I think it is in terms of clubs abroad. It is not in terms of the general landscape of the market. Because I have seen Leverkusen, I have seen Atletico Madrid, I have seen Chelsea. So a couple of clubs want him. But in terms of abroad, if he was to settle for a move abroad, Arsenal would have a very big advantage, a very big, say in whether we sign him or we actually let him go to another player. In terms of the general market, no. It's Juventus. I think they're the club that he wants to go to. They're the club that he's agreed a deal in principle with right in February, March, and that's not going to change. Now, of course, a deal in principle doesn't mean that he's committed to Juventus. We have seen Rafinha agree with Chelsea and then end up at Barcelona. So those deals really do happen. A player can agree to join you, but then because you don't have the money to pay, because you don't have the requirements that the player maybe wants at times, then they end up joining another club. But at the moment, I would say Juve, I see them as favorites. But look, Calafiori at 22, how many Italians are really usually desperate to move abroad at 22, right? They are very, very few. And you can say that the market's changing. We have seen Tonali move over to Newcastle. That is, that was a deal that we saw happen last summer. But I think most of the players want to stay at home, especially at this very young age. Most of them, their admiration is to play for Juve, is to represent Inter Milan and AC Milan. And if that chance comes a little bit earlier on in your career, 22, 21, you're absolutely going to take it. So Juve are still leading that race. So why are Arsenal leading the race outside the Premier League? Money. And I laugh at people who say Arsenal don't have money, Arsenal don't spend, Arsenal just point and they don't sign players. And I'm like, are you really following Arsenal these days? Do you know that we have a £100 million signing in our squad? Do you know that we have the record of the most expensive English player to be bought in the Premier League? We have that record. So put some respect on our name. So Arsenal have the money. There's no question about that. Last summer, we were walking around with 200 million and we successfully spent all of it. This summer, we are walking around with another 200 million, and clubs will expect us to spend all of that money. So Chelsea have already made it very clear. Fabrizio said today again, they're not going to pay a lot of money for players. They're not going to pay a lot of wages. So if Arsenal can do kind of a revenge and outbid Chelsea on Calafiori, Chelsea are out of it. I don't think the financial power of Arsenal is, to be honest, at the same level as Atletico Madrid and Leverkusen. Leverkusen, yeah, the interest is good. They probably looking at him as a replacement for Jonathan Tah, who's going to be going to Bayern. They don't have the money that Arsenal have at the moment. Leverkusen would be willing to splash 35 million. Arsenal, would be willing to splash 45 million on Riccardo Calafiori. So when you factor into the project, where would he develop better? Which club has done more groundwork on this deal as compared to the other clubs abroad? That's why I think Arsenal is the concrete option and the better option for Calafiori, as reported by Di Marzio at the moment. But Di Marzio is so good at gaslighting fan bases.
I agree. So let's see what happens with that Calafiori one. So lastly, we won't be able to cover everything, but we will cover it on the next podcast, and more on Gyokeres. We did it on Kozi's channel, so make sure to go and check out that live. But just little on Gyokeres. Kozi, this is the latest on him from Fabrizio Romano. For Viktor Gyokeres, Sporting still want the release because they want a package of 100 million euros. Now, they want a package of 100 million euros, so it's not like you have to pay it all at once. It could be 70 million plus add-ons and stuff. What deal would you be trying to give them? Would you be like, hey, 75 million, 80 million? Would you be offering 70 million plus 10 million in add-ons? What would be a deal if you're going to do a meeting right now with Sporting to try and convince them?
First and foremost, try to make sure that they don't see you as a desperate buyer, because I don't think we are. Yeah, when we are not. And Portuguese teams are very good at sniffing out that fear and sniffing out that, despair when you're desperate. So make sure they see that you're not desperate. But the kind of deal that I would be offering them would be a deal that benefits both parties. I think Gyokeres is going to Arsenal. That is automatically a plus in his career, unless he's unless he's a feeble player. But if he's the monster we know, he's going to be able to make that progress, to make that step and journey, and then he's going to be successful. So the deal that that Sporting would benefit from is selling their key player this summer and raising money for operations next season, but also raising money to buy in a couple of players, because they're going to lose a couple of players. There's no question about that. They have done well in terms of keeping that squad intact from last summer throughout this season to this summer. I think that's the best they can do. They'll lose around 3 or 4 players, as part of that team. And I've already said, who is going to be their most expensive export this summer? It's going to be Viktor Gyokeres. The most of them are going to be 40 million, 35 million pound, deals. Maybe the likes of Diamonde could go around 60 million euros. But Gyokeres is the one they are sure they can get 80 million euros. And that's the deal I would be trying to offer them. 80 million euros, give them 40 million euros up top or up front, and then the rest can come in terms of installments, not just add-ons, but in installments. Maybe next year we can give them 20, and then the other after that 10, and then the year after that 10 million as well. Because I don't think Sporting are 100% serious and 100% confident that this guy is gonna keep calm and say, I want to be here at Sporting for another season. I really don't think so. I think we will see a point in time where Gyokeres and his camp push on the door a little bit and tell Sporting, if there is a club that really wants us, like Arsenal, why don't you let us go? Bit of what Mykhailo Mudryk did, bit of what players have done in the past. A player will apply pressure, because this is like a once in a lifetime opportunity as well. When a club like Arsenal wants you, you don't know what's going to happen. Next season, you might not have the luck and resources to play at the top level and produce those top level numbers. So for me, my deal would be 80 million euros, 40 million up top, up front. Use that to go and re-energize your squad, and then the 40 million would be coming in installments.
Very, very good breakdown. For me, I'd do it maybe up front once and then 2 different installments. I'd be offering them, listen, give you 60 million and then we'll give you in euros, 10 million, so say 80 million euros, around 70 something million pounds. If they accept that, that would be great. I'm sure they wouldn't want that. They'd want more than that. But as I said, we covered more on Gyokeres on Cause's channel live stream yesterday. We will be covering more throughout today, so make sure to check out both channels. Thank you for watching. Apologies on anything we haven't talked about. We'll be covering them next time. Catch up with you on the next one.